1. So at the time, I was a 16-year-old female working in McDonald's. Now at the McDonald's I worked at, when you were on headset, where you answer people at the drive-thru, you are normally required to be at the first window to also take payment. My job position was customer care manager at the time, so my job was meant to be on the front desk, but 99% of the time they required me behind the tills. So I was having a normal day. Working a long shift, but having a normal working day. I happened to be on headset and first window that day. Anyway, my headset buzzes letting me know there is someone at my drive-thru lane. I go through to the first window to answer my customer, and this is how the conversation ensued. "Hello, welcome to McDonald's, what can I get you?"
"Oh, wow. You've got a beautiful voice."
His voice was very grunty and husky sounding, not off-putting. We have all sorts of customers come through McDonald's every day, so nothing gave me the creeps at this point, but his voice was very recognizable. "Thank you, sir, how very flattering. What can I get you?"
"I haven't decided yet. Can I just come round to the first window to decide? I want to see who I'm talking to."
Now, we weren't very busy, and at this point, Creeper hadn't actually creeped me out. I mean, all he had done was pay me a compliment, and we quite often had people complain that they liked the face-to-face contact. So it was definitely not unusual to get a request like this. "Yes, sir, that's fine."
"Wow, you're just as beautiful as you sound."
"Thank you, sir. Have you decided what you're having?"
"Are you an option?"
I laughed this off. It was my first job, and I wasn't the rude kind of person when someone was paying a compliment. I must also point out this man must have been in his 60s. I remember he had one lazy eye that looked to the left, painfully awful teeth, and patchy dark brown hair. At this point I was a little bit uncomfortable, but was still more than willing to take his order.
"I'll have a cheeseburger."
"Okay, sir, that's 99p. Are you paying cash or card?" Without answering my question, he started asking where I'm from and how old I was, etc., etc., etc. But it wasn't until his last few questions that I got super weirded out.
"What time do you finish work?"
7:30. Why? I didn't finish at 7:30, but 7:30 was the first number that came into my head when I blurted it out. I finished at 8, and would probably do some overtime too, but I wasn't about to let him know that.
"I can meet you if you want. I can pick you up outside, and we can go somewhere."
All the while he is saying this, he has this horrendous grin on his face, and keeps winking at me. "I'm really sorry, sir, but I'm not allowed to meet customers outside of work, as is against our employee policy." This was utter bullshit, but I needed him to leave me alone. He carries on being insistent, but not getting the picture. I cut the conversation short. "Anyway, sir, sorry to be rude, but can I have the 99p for your cheeseburger?"
"Ah, yes, sorry. See you at 7:30.
Off he drove to the next window. I was gobsmacked. I'd already said I wasn't going to see him. I was a little bit shocked, but was not going to go over there to give him the satisfaction of talking to me again. My co-worker came to me and said, "That guy had a major crush on you, and wanted your number, but I didn't give it to him. He's old enough to be your dad." Anyway, I explained exactly what had happened and how uncomfortable it made me. 7:30 came, and my co-worker is booked. Creeper is waiting in the car park for me, just like he said he would. He has sat way down the car park, and you can see him just staring in. Our car park wasn't very big, it only had 4 rows of parking spaces, so he wasn't that far away, and would have clocked me the minute I walked out the door. At this point I'm freaking out, and head to the back of the store where hopefully he can't see me. I had to stay at the back of the store for 40 minutes before we knew it was safe to come out. Fast forward a week, and Creeper is back on drive-thru, and guess who is back on headset and at window 1? Me. I heard his voice and recognized it straight away.
"I was hoping I'd hear your voice again. Why didn't you meet me the other day?"
"Just 1 second, sir, I'll be with you in a second." I immediately handed my headset to my manager and gave him a quick briefing of the situation. He gladly took the headset and dealt with the customer from start to finish. When my manager came back to let me know he had gone, he said that the Creeper had been asking my name, my address, my surname. My manager said he was the most creepiest guy he had ever met, and I was never to have anything to do with him again. If he came to work while I was there afterwards, my manager would have me head to the back room while he dealt with the creep. He still always asked about me, every time. So, creeper at McDonald's, let's not meet again. 2. So at the time this happened, I was 21. I work in a very popular retail store and my work environment is very casual. We don't have a uniform apart from a lanyard that we wear around our necks, and we are encouraged to chat to customers for however long it takes to help them select an item, and to feel comfortable around us so they come back. Basic retail stuff. Because of this atmosphere, we have a lot of regular customers that come in every week or so. This is probably why I didn't think the following interactions were anything more than a lonely person who wanted to have a chat. So one day I was working and an older man around his late 30s. He had a bit of a belly, was wearing a non-offensive slogan shirt and pants. His eyes were spaced apart, very tall. I now describe him as resembling a praying mantis. He walked up to me and just started chatting about general stuff, asking how I was, what my name was. It was on my lanyard, so I didn't feel the need to lie. What section of the store I worked in, etc. Then he left. I assumed he was a regular and that I just hadn't met him yet, so he was introducing himself. His name was Mitchell. Since that first interaction, Mitchell started to come into the store a lot more often. He always wore the same clothes, but surprisingly didn't smell. He would always come up to me and have a quick chat. He particularly liked to compliment me on the clothes I was wearing, but it wasn't in an overly creepy way. He would say things like, "I like your dress, very colorful," or "Did you make that yourself? You seem like a creative person." I usually wore dresses that came up to my neck or covered my chest completely in some way, just above the knee. Casual, but still work appropriate and weather appropriate. Australia is hot. It started off that I would see him once a week, then gradually I started seeing him almost every shift I had. I was only casual at the time, so I worked around 3 to 4 shifts a week. Sometimes less, but usually on the same days, just different hours. I now realize he probably worked this out and was stalking me. The only thing I found out about him was his name, and he told me that he was a writer. There was a time that I didn't see him for a few weeks. When I did see him next, he walked up to me and said, "Hey, it's been a while. Do you want to go for a coffee or catch up?" I immediately replied with a cheery "no thanks." He asked if I had a boyfriend, and I said, "No, I just don't want to." He laughed and said, "Fair enough," then left. I didn't see him for another while after that, but I did get a Facebook request from him, despite not being friends or telling him my last name. I obviously blocked him. I told my sister Katie about it, and she relayed the following story about a man who fit his description, who used to come into her work a few years ago. Now Katie is 2 years younger than me, but she is a short, petite size 8 girl with a round, youthful face. So when he knew her, she would have looked around 15 despite being actually 17. She couldn't remember much apart from him always coming into her work, which was a video store, when she was the only person on. One day, Katie was on at night by herself, and he came in to hire some videos. Katie had her hair in a high ponytail with a white ribbon tied into a bow. They completed the transaction, and Mitchell looked at her and said, "White is the color of purity." Katie was confused, so Mitchell continued, "I'm a writer, so I have to know this sort of stuff. Are you wearing it because you think you're pure?" Katie just awkwardly laughed it off and said she just liked it. Mitchell then left. Katie said after the video store closed down, RIP, she was also sent a friend request, and he also messaged her asking her out for coffee. Of course, Katie blocked him without replying. We decided to go onto his Facebook. Katie unblocked him, so we knew it was definitely the same Mitchell. Once on his Facebook, we found the status that had been attached to this post. We couldn't see much of his profile apart from them. He didn't have any profile pictures of himself either. After this, Katie explained that she assumes he must have found her because her place of work used to be on her profile. Not since this incident, though, since she never told him her real name and she always wore other people's name badges. So I removed mine also. I told my workmates about all of this, and one of them, Daniel, said that his friend worked at a store across the road from ours, and he used to come into her work and do the same thing. He's been reported before, and a lot of the girls that work in the stores around my town have had him stalk them at their workplace as well. The next time I saw Mitchell coming down the aisle towards me, I got full spine-tingling chills. So I turned around and walked out back and stayed out there until he had left the store. I did this a few more times to give him the message that I did not want to speak to him. The last time I can remember seeing him, he came up to the counter to pick up an item. I turned around, and when I saw him, I swiftly walked out the back again. I came back out a few minutes later, and he was walking away. Then all of a sudden, he walked straight back to the counter that I was behind and just stared at me across it before leaving. One of my workmates thinks he has since fried himself with drugs, because now his eyes look completely dead. They're basically black, and he just gives off a weird vibe to everyone now. I rarely see him since I practically ghosted him. He orders in the occasional item, and I see his name on it. That's about the extent of our interaction. But if I get called up to help a customer and it's him, I just palm him off to one of the guys I work with and go out the back. I still get the chills when I see him, though. 3. Being on servers online can lead to a lot of unwanted attention. I am a part of staff team on a lot of servers, wheedling out potential trolls or just people who are looking for something we do not provide. One afternoon in October, we get a new member in the server. She went by Terrence. That isn't her real name, as people make up screen names to go by for privacy reasons. She created her introduction and gave her age, as we have channels for adults to talk more freely without worrying that they might say something wrong in front of a minor, only being 15 years old. I gave her the roles and let her chat in the channels we offered for minors freely. Things started to get weird when I started posting selfies of myself without any cosplay gear on. No wigs, no colored contacts, no fancy outfits, just me. Now I'm gender fluid, so I flip from feeling masculine and back to feminine. I have my hair short on the sides and longer up top, and stick up the top of my hair, just so I can have the best of both worlds and feel comfortable. Terrence complimented me. I thanked her, as I would any other compliment. Yet she got more involved with complimenting me. A few weeks later, she began to PM me about how she loved how I looked. I again thanked her and kept interactions brief, as I felt uncomfortable with somebody 3 to 4 years younger than me complimenting me all the time. Then she started to message me every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. She started to save my selfies and make edits on them, fancying up the look on them and then sending them to me. She started to ask for my Snapchat and my other accounts that I only use for really close friends. I, of course, denied giving it to her. At first I was weirded out. Okay, odd. I kindly asked her not to save my selfies without my permission, and please do not make edits to them, as it was kinda creeping me out. I only knew her for about a month, and she's acting like I knew her for 5 years. She apologized and said that she wouldn't do it again. There. That was the end of that. However, a few days later, more staff members on the server started to message me that Terrence was talking about me to other members who brought it up with them. She had begun to complain to other members about how I wasn't online all the time, and began to share my personal private messages, and even more selfies of me that she edited with other people. I didn't give her permission to do any of this, so I confronted her, demanding her to stop this nonsense before it goes too far. She again apologizes and started to go on about how she was the worst, basically guilt-tripping me into forgiving her. I didn't fall for it, and I told her bluntly, there isn't much of an excuse to the actions you had with other members either. Those kinds of actions put a damper on how people see you, and when I know you as a person who does that, then immediately attaches to me, it freaks me out. Now please stop messaging me. Do not have any contact with me anymore. Her response was nothing more than, "Oh, okay. I'm done with life anyways." Then it went even further. She didn't stop, and her messages got more aggressive, saying that I was the reason she was having an identity crisis and how she wanted to be everything I was. How she wanted to end her life if I didn't talk with her. I started to get really freaked out, and we got rid of her. We banned her from the server, and I demanded that she would leave me alone. Friend request after friend request came flooding in over the course of weeks. I blocked her each time to get rid of her. She started to join other servers that I am involved in just to get in contact with me. Many of my friends who were on the staff team ordered her to leave me alone and to never have contact with me again. She said she was sorry, and that she'd try again when this whole thing blows over. I sent my last message to her, stating clearly what I wanted to happen in this situation. Are you fucking joking? What part of leave me alone don't you understand? You're practically stalking me now. Let me make this clear yet again. I don't want anything to do with you. Leave me alone. You creep me out. Don't ever try to contact me again. That doesn't mean in a few months. It doesn't mean tomorrow. It means never contact me ever again. Nothing happened for months. I was on edge but relieved that it was over. I went on with my life and started college. The relaxation came to a sudden stop one day. I got friend requests on my personal accounts on social media. These accounts that I didn't have linked up to any sort of account I use for business or my animations. She messaged me things that I had never told her. She said that she wanted to meet up at a Tim Hortons that was on a main street, near my house. She even named the street. I always said I was from Canada, but never gave the province or town I lived in. This was when it got worse. She started to harass my real-life friends to get her in contact with me. Every day, this 15-year-old would harass everybody I knew, including my own mother. She wanted to be in my life, but I wanted her out of my life. And then, it just stopped. Not too long ago, she tried to send me another friend request and I blocked her once more. Hopefully this situation is done. To that 15-year-old who doesn't understand when no really means no, let's not meet. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 362. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Speaking of weird, creepy online things, I don't use Facebook often, but I do have a Facebook account tied to the Hellfreezer page, so I keep my personal Facebook page active, because you need to. Now, a very weird thing, I'll try and do this without mentioning any names, I occasionally get friend requests from old acquaintances and family members, which is fine, okay, fair enough, I'll add you as a friend if you want, if you're a family member. And I've gotten, from my uncle, one's from cousins and so on. And I got one that I initially thought was from one of my cousins. It shows you how close I am to certain members of my family. It wasn't until I was speaking with my sister I remembered this person wasn't a cousin, but she is in fact my aunt. And this is an aunt I'm very close to, clearly, since I didn't even remember she was my aunt. I'd have remembered eventually. Anyway, so I accept this request without thinking, okay, fair enough, I guess I'll accept that. And then I get another request. I thought I'd accepted that, so I accept that one too. Then I get another, and another, and another. Now that's 5 friend requests, 2 I'd accepted, thinking I'd somehow not accepted the first one, from separate people. Some of these accounts have pictures, some of them do not. They are nobody I recognize. For example, had it been my aunt, I know what the woman looks like. I would have, had she had a picture, I'd have recognized her. So I was speaking with my sister about it, and she looked and she thought it was very peculiar. Well, there was also a request from a male name with the same last name as my family as well, but we don't have a guy with this particular name in my family. It was from my father's side of the family. No one with that name that I know of. But that was very weird as well. So I was talking with my sister about it, and she agreed. She basically said what people actually had said on Twitter, by the way, that's at Hellfreezer on Twitter, had said, don't respond to any of them. So what I did is I deleted these requests, and that's when I noticed I actually had 2 of this person in my friends list on Facebook. So I just got rid of both of them as well. So I'm sitting here right now wondering, is it a scam? Could well be. Or is it just Facebook playing silly buggers? Or have I somehow accessed a Facebook network across the multiverse, and am I receiving friend requests from alternate versions of my aunt? Okay, I admit that's probably not the case. Anyway, the really weird thing is actually, though, about this particular aunt, is I worked with somebody that knew her many, many years ago. And apparently this lady had mentioned to my aunt, "Oh, I'm working with your nephew." "Who's that?" And so she said my name. "Who's that?" "You know, the son of your brother's son." And she said my dad's name. Didn't apparently recognize my name, even though my father only has 2 kids, and one's a boy, one was a girl. Anyway, weirdness. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.